Join me as I dive into the world of prepping and challenge myself to debunk some myths you probably thought were true. Prepping is all about being prepared for any situation, and it's becoming increasingly important in today's world. With natural disasters, economic uncertainty, and global conflicts on the rise, having a plan in place can be a lifesaver. There are many myths surrounding prepping that can be misleading and even harmful. Some people think prepping is only for doomsday enthusiasts, or that it's a waste of time and money. Others believe that prepping is all about stockpiling food and water, without considering other essential aspects, like first aid, self-defense, and communication. These misconceptions can lead people to underestimate the importance of prepping or approach it in a way that's ineffective. Many prepping myths have been perpetuated by the media, which often portrays preppers as extreme or paranoid individuals. Prepping myths can also be damaging because they create unrealistic expectations and a false sense of security. For example, some people believe that having a bug-out bag is enough to keep them safe in an emergency, without considering the need for a well-thought-out plan, a safe place to go, and a way to communicate with loved ones. This lack of understanding can lead to complacency and a lack of preparedness, which can have serious consequences in a crisis situation. Prepping is not just about gear and supplies, but also about knowledge, skills, and community. Some prepping myths are based on outdated information or a lack of understanding of the underlying principles. For instance, some people think that prepping is only about surviving in the wilderness without considering the need to prepare for urban disasters or economic crises. This narrow focus can lead to a lack of preparedness for the most likely scenarios, which can be devastating. Diving deeper into these myths, it's clear that many of them are based on misconceptions about what prepping is and what it entails. For example, the idea that preppers are all about surviving alone in the wilderness is a myth that has been perpetuated by the media. In reality, prepping is about being prepared for any situation, whether it's a natural disaster, an economic crisis, or a personal emergency. Having a well-stocked pantry and a first aid kit is essential, but it's also important to have a plan in place for communication, self-defense, and community building. The truth behind effective prepping strategies is that they are based on a thorough assessment of the risks and a well-thought-out plan. This includes having an emergency fund, a plan for alternative energy and water sources, and a way to communicate with loved ones. It's also important to have a community of like-minded individuals who can provide support and assistance in a crisis situation. Prepping is not just about individual survival, but also about building resilience in community. Prepping is about being proactive and taking steps to mitigate risks rather than just reacting to a crisis. It's about having a plan in place, whether it's for a short-term emergency or a long-term disaster. By understanding the myths and misconceptions surrounding prepping, we can create a more effective and realistic approach to preparedness. This approach should be based on a thorough assessment of the risks and a well-thought-out plan, rather than on misconceptions and myths. One of the most shocking myths is that prepping is only for extreme situations. and that it's not relevant to everyday life. However, the truth is that prepping is about being prepared for any situation, whether it's a natural disaster, a personal emergency, or an economic crisis. By having a plan in place and being prepared, we can reduce our risk and increase our resilience, which can have a significant impact on our overall well-being. This myth is particularly damaging because it creates a false sense of security and leads people to underestimate the importance of prepping. The most shocking myth of all is that prepping is a solo activity and that it's every person for themselves. However, the truth is that prepping is about building community and resilience, and that it's more effective when done with others. By working together and supporting each other, we can create a more effective and sustainable approach to preparedness. This approach should be based on mutual aid, cooperation, and a shared understanding of the risks and challenges. This myth is particularly damaging because it creates a sense of isolation and disconnection, which can be devastating in a crisis situation. By recognizing the importance of community and cooperation, we can create a more effective and resilient approach to prepping. The truth is that prepping is not just about individual survival, but also about building a stronger and more resilient community. In conclusion, prepping is about being prepared for any situation, and it's essential to separate fact from fiction when it comes to prepping myths. By understanding the truths behind effective prepping strategies, we can create a more realistic and effective approach to preparedness. Let's recap the key myths we've discussed and the truths we've revealed, and remember that prepping is about being informed, prepared, and proactive. If you've had any experiences with prepping myths, share them with us in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other video on prepping essentials for more information.